Hi there, Jonathan from Bacchus Wine Tasting here. Of course, tasting some wine in the attic, but well, kind of tasting some wine in the attic, but also I've got something very important to tell you about. I am going to tell you all about our upcoming winemakers dinner, of course, and the reason we're doing this is because Paddy is coming to town. So, just to give you a little bit of history, um, Bacchus has been buying wine for quite some time now, about approaching 4 years, putting on really nice wine tasting events. And one of the very first estates that we started buying wine directly from was Sharpham down in Devon. And Paddy is on the winemaking team down there, and he was my first point of contact with the estate. And to be fair, we've become really close friends since. So I'm really, really excited to say that he's going to come up to Liverpool and we are putting on a very, very fancy event. So it's our winemakers dinner. It's going to include pretty much a whole portfolio tasting from Sharpham. So we've got 10 of their wines. The wines include wines of all variety, really. Sparkling wines, white wines, rosé wines, red wines, some quirky wines. We've got some really nice special reserve vintages. We've got three wines that have not been released previously. So this is the first vintage release for three wines in particular for Sharpham. So some brand new wines as well. New vintage releases of old favourites as well. So wines are plenty, stretching across all styles and kind of personal preferences for people as well. So it's going to be really, really fun, of course, for the wines, but we're also putting on a full tasting menu as well. So this is all going to be taking place in the GPO food court in Liverpool's Met Quarter. Um, Bacchus has its own wine bar there, but we're going to be using a lovely area of GPO to put on this bigger event. We're going to be teaming up with a whole host of food partners from a variety of kitchens. There's 11 different independent kitchens at GPO. So we're teaming up with a whole host of them, and we're taking kind of small tapas style tasting plates from each of these kitchens and pairing them with all of Sharpened wines. So it's going to be really, really fun. Paddy and I are going to be there hosting it side by side. I'm going to take you through all of the wines, all of the food, and we're going to have a really fantastic time. I did just pop a cork on one particular wine, just a really, really fun one. I know it might look very strange. It was a tasting sample, but it's not that kind of sample. This was one of the new releases of sorts, a rebranding in particular for this particular one. Sharpen fans or perhaps previous tasters for Bacchus events may recognize this wine as the Wild Ferment Pinot Gris. It's been rebranded as the Little B. So this was sent. This will be a new sample. This new vintage release was sent before it had been dressed. So this is why I've got a hold of this bottle. So I thought it would be quite a nice one to open for this little video. But also really, really nice because you get to fully appreciate the colour on this wine as well. So this is kind of a nod to natural wines, an orange wine perhaps. Um, if you've heard of orange wines before, needless to say, not made from oranges. Still a Pinot Gris grape variety here. But as you can probably see, named orange wines because of its colour. So these are white wines that are made in a red wine style, in that they have contact with the skins before fermentation. So for this particular wine, this wine was left in soaking in a lovely bath of its own skins for 3 weeks before a wild fermentation. More on wild fermentation in just a second. And in that cold soak, it extracts some tannins and some colour in particular, anthocyanins being more soluble at this stage in the winemaking process. So you get lovely colour extraction. This is where red wines get most of their colour from. But of course, this is a white wine. So we get this lovely golden colour coming from the amber skins on the grape varieties. We get a lot of development in terms of aromas and flavours as well. So this is I'm really looking forward to showing people this wine for the winemaker's dinner, especially if you haven't perhaps tried wines like this. We're going to have 10 fantastic wines, and it's a real ideal opportunity to step out your comfort zone a little bit and try something a little bit different. So this is going to be our quirky offering. It's full of vibrancy. It's got lots of citrus notes, but the citrus notes are really developed. So we go into kind of nectarines and oranges, kind of orange peel. But there's a nice undertone of grapefruit freshness as well. Stone fruits, but really ripe stone fruits. So I go in with the apricot here. And then there's more almost developed tones. So you have a little bit of honey, even maybe a little touch of marmalade with that kind of orange and orange zest and peel, primary notes that I kind of pulled out before, and some spiciness and herbal notes as well. So it's kind of really rich. I want to kind of say it's not your classic kind of white pepper spice. It's again a little bit more fuller than that. So I'd kind of say with a slight bit of caution, kind of fennel. I really love fennel, but I know not some people don't. So I don't want to put people off. Um, but again, it's subtle and light and well integrated. So none of these notes, which is lovely for this style of wine, particularly for how Paddy and the team have produced this wine. It's really well balanced, and everything is kind of in tune with each other. So not, I've got lots of strong, bold aromas and flavors here, but neither one of them seem to be competing or outdoing the other. It's a super well made wine that has real freshness as well. I'll tell you a little bit about the food partner that we're pairing this with in a second, but I did mention wild ferment, so I don't want to leave that hanging around. So let's explore that. Most wines, for commercial wines, certainly are produced with cultured yeasts that give very reliable results, which is great. That's why we keep going back to our favorite wines. They're quite consistent, and they do what the winemakers want them to do, and don't cause any problems, which is really really nice when you're working in kind of a commercial operation. However, you want to take a bit of a gamble, go with a wild yeast strain that usually they're quite ambient on the bloom, the skins of the grapes, and in the environment and in the vineyard and in the winery. So if you go with your natural yeast, things well, a little bit more natural, and they do whatever they want to do. So this is a wild ferment using ambient yeasts, and I think you can really appreciate that. This is where the term kind of natural winemaking comes from, and orange wines really feed very nicely into that style of wine. So we're going to explore that in more detail on the evening, but hopefully that little tasting note has kind of wet your whistle somewhat and got you a little bit energized to get involved. This wine in particular screams for very much in the white wine kind of realm, kind of seafood, but we'll go beyond fish. And we'll go for really kind of strong shellfish. And well, we're actually going to go for a Spanish paella, which is going to be absolutely delicious. That's coming from the Temple Diana kitchen at GPO, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. It's going to pair beautifully with this wine. So really, really looking forward to sharing it with you. Really looking forward to introducing you to my good friend Paddy, and we're going to enjoy a fabulous portfolio tasting and small plates tasting menu for the evening. So I do hope you can join us and try some of these fantastic wines. Hope to see you there.